5 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few pitchers I look to drop this week. The first guy, Steven Matz of the St. Louis Cardinals. So Steven Matz, he got a nice 4-year contract in the offseason here with the St. Louis Cardinals, and right now he's not living up to it. And he's a guy that was a hot commodity on the free agent market in the offseason. But for teams that didn't get him, they're smart for not getting him and letting the Cardinals get him. So on the season here for Matt, 25 and 2/3, 3-2 record, 34 hits, 20 earned runs, 8 walks, 30 strikeouts, a quality start, a 7.01 ERA, and a 1.64 whip. So right here, I know he's on a good team in St. Louis. That definitely has a chance here to win the NL Central, especially with Milwaukee. Woodruff struggling in the early going. But this guy here, he's really not going out there and doing much for fantasy owners. And in his last outing, he got wrecked with Steven Matz. So the last few outings for him, April 27th versus the Mets, 4 innings, no decision, 6 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 6 Ks. May 2nd versus the Royals, 6 innings, got the win, 4 hits, no runs, 4 Ks, a quality start. And then May 7th at the Giants, he got destroyed, 2 innings, got the loss, 5 hits, 8 runs, 3 walks, and 3 Ks. So right here, Steven Matz, even throughout his career, he's only a 5-6 inning pitcher at best, and that's what we're getting from him this season. He's only reached 6 innings once. It's usually 5 and 2/3 in most he's going to go. And he's not a guy that's going to go deep into games a lot, and he's a guy that's going to have a lot of no decisions under his belt. And he's also a player that's going to get bombed a big-time amount from 4 or 5 times a season, which we saw the other day. So right now, he's been dropped in 10% of fantasy leagues. Matz definitely could turn it around, but he's a guy that's been inconsistent throughout his whole career. And I know he was a top prospect coming up through the minors with the New York Mets, but he's never panned out to be that guy, and he's just a 4 or 5 inning pitcher at best. His third time around that lineup is where he gets in trouble and he can't get the job done. So right now, I would drop him, and if he does turn it around, you could always go out there and pick him up, but he's an easy drop this week. The next guy, Jake McGee, who I mentioned last week as a drop, and I don't know why fantasy owners still have him on their roster. 9 1/3 on the season, 1-1 record, 2 saves, 14 hits, 10 earned runs, 4 walks, 6 Ks, 1 blown save, 9.64 ERA, and a 1.93 whip. So right here, those numbers are awful. I know he has closer potential, but for a closer, I'm not going to wait till this guy gets it right. And Duvall, I think, is better anyway and younger. And maybe McGee don't have it anymore at 36 years old. So the last few outings for him, May 1st versus Washington, 1 inning in that one, 2 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks. May 5th versus St. Louis, 2/3 of an inning, 3 hits, 3 runs, a K. And then his latest outing, May 9th versus Colorado, 1 inning in that one, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 Ks. So right here, he's getting hit hard. Is McGee. He's not finding the strike zone. The velocity is down. And it's just surprising to me he's still on the 53% of fantasy leagues. Right here, he should be dropped pretty much universal all around fantasy baseball because he's a guy not getting the job done, and he's not worth the wait as a closer, like I mentioned, to turn things around. The next guy, Hunter Green of the Cincinnati Reds. So their top prospect, Hunter Green, he came up this season, and a lot of high hopes for him. But right now, he's just not pitching the baseball. He's just throwing, using that 102, 103 mile per hour heat, which could just get you so far. Yeah, the harder it comes in, the faster it goes out of the ballpark. And that's been the case here for Hunter Green on the season. 20 2/3, 1-4 record, 28 hits, 20 earned runs, 11 walks, 29 strikeouts, an 8.71 ERA, and a 1.89 whip. So right here, he's got great potential, great upside. He throws heat, but a lot of factors are against Green. Right now, like I mentioned, he's just throwing the ball, trying to blow it by players, but these are major league hitters, and they can hit the ball a long way. They're not going to be worried about 100-plus miles per hour, which a lot of pitchers throw, obviously, nowadays. Another thing, he's not locating, and he's walking a decent amount of guys with 11 walks as well in 20 innings. And also, he's on a team with 5 wins this season. So right here, a lot of factors against Green. In keeper and dynasty leagues, I wouldn't drop him, but in redraft leagues right now, there's no reason to hold on to him. So the last few outings here for Green, April 22nd versus the Cardinals, 3 1/3, got a loss, 4 hits, 3 runs, 4 walks, 3 Ks. April 29th at the Rockies, 4 1/3, got the loss, 6 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks, 6 Ks. And May 5th in Milwaukee, 2 2/3, got the loss, 9 hits. He got racked up in this one, 8 runs, a walk, and 7 Ks. So the only thing here that he's very good with is obviously blowing guys away and striking people out with 16 strikeouts in his last 3 outings, where he's only went 4 innings once. So right now he's got another matchup here today versus the Brewers. And like I just mentioned, the Brewers hit him hard last time. So right now he's only owned in 28% of fantasy leagues, but also a couple of the leagues I'm in still owned is green. But right now, if he gets bombed here today, there's no reason to hold on to him all. So right now I would drop him. The next guy, Dillon Bundy on the Minnesota Twins. So Dillon Bundy, he got off to a good start the first few outings of the season, but now he's back to bad form once again here with the Twins. 25 innings, 3-2 record, 28 hits, 16 earned runs, 5 walks, 22 strikeouts, a 5.76 ERA, and a 1.32 whip. So Bundy here, it was probably a fluke a few seasons ago in the shortened season with the Los Angeles Angels. And the Angels, they're probably happy they couldn't come to a long-term deal with him, because this guy, he's just a 5-6 inning pitcher at best, and also a guy who's not going to get the job done, really. So the last few games here for Bundy, April 23rd versus the White Sox, 5 innings, got the win, 4 hits, 4 Ks. April 29th at Tampa, 6 innings, got the loss, 7 hits, 6 runs, 2 walks, 7 Ks. And then his latest outing versus one of his former teams at Baltimore, 3 2/3, got the loss, 9 runs, 11 hits, 2 walks, 3 Ks. So he got racked up in that one. Now he's on the COVID list. He got dropped in 4% of fantasy leagues. And he's a guy who was a big-time prospect in the Baltimore Orioles system, but he's never panned out to be that big-time pitcher except that one season in 2020, which obviously was only a 2-month season, so you can't take that into consideration, really. So right now, he's on the IL. He's got COVID, and the last 2 outings, he's got bombed, so there's no reason to keep him in 10 and 12-team leagues. And he's a guy to drop because Bundy, he's just like a Steven Matz, third time around that lineup. He's going to get hit hard, and he's really only a 4 or 5 inning pitcher. And the 5th and final pitcher I look to drop this week here is Tanner Houck of the Boston Red Sox. So Tanner Houck, one of the top prospects in this Red Sox system. And it's not completely all his fault while he struggled this season. They've been toying with him a little bit this season, using him in relief, using him after the opener guy in the 3rd, 4th inning coming into games, and then starting him recently from the beginning of the ball game. So on the season here for Houck, 23 2/3 on the season, 2-3 record already, 22 hits, 15 earned runs, 11 walks, 23 strikeouts, a 5.70 ERA, and a 1.39 whip. So right here, like I mentioned, playing around with Houck isn't going to help him, where you could just make him a starter and say, go out there and get it. But that just hasn't been the case. So right now, he's been dropped in 7% of fantasy leagues. And I had him on my roster as well, but there's no reason holding on to him if the Red Sox aren't going to be sure what they're going to do with him. And he's struggling on the season, and the walks have been a big part of his problem as well. So April 29th at Baltimore, 3 innings, got the win, 2 hits, no runs, 3 walks, 4 Ks. May 5th versus the Angels, after coming in after the opener, 2 1/3, got the loss, 5 hits, 7 runs, a walk, 4 Ks. And then he started versus the White Sox, May 8th, 2 2/3, got the loss, 4 hits, 3 runs, 2 Ks. So you don't want to see this with an up-and-coming prospect, but this is what the Red Sox are doing with him, moving him around in the rotation and in the bullpen. And right now, I'm not going to use that for my fantasy team. I'd rather have a guy is going to be a starter and has a chance to go at least 5 or 6 innings and get a win every 5th day. So right now, I would drop Houck until he has a role and until he turns things around. So that's a few pitches I look to drop here for Week 5 of the fantasy baseball season.